to everybody from The Hague, from the headquarters of Eurojust, the European Union Agency for Criminal Justice Cooperation. My name is Tim Heller. I'm the team leader for public communications, and I'm looking forward to guiding you through today's Eurojust Virtual Open Day. People from all over the world have signed up for this, and we are very happy, very glad to see this big interest. We have a lot of participants, not only from the European Union, but from places as far away as Australia and Panama, for example. And of course, we also have a lot of people here from the Netherlands, from our host state. Ja, goedemorgen en heel leuk te zien dat iedereen hier bij ons is vandaag. We are very glad, as I said, to see your big interest in our agency, in our work, and also in our people. And we have prepared, hopefully, an interesting agenda for you for today. This Eurojust Open Day is taking place on the occasion of the Just Peace Month. That's an initiative of the Municipality of The Hague. To highlight the important work of international organizations and their contribution towards global peace, justice, and freedom. So after these big words, now some small print, basically our house rules for today. This open day will be recorded and also published afterwards on our YouTube channel. We invite you to keep your cameras shut during this open day, and also good to know for you, your microphones are muted by default. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. Actually, quite the opposite. We do want to hear from you. We want to have your questions today. So please feel free to ask us basically anything you want to know about our agency, our work, and about the stuff we are going to talk about today. So how can you do this? You will have a little question and answers Q&A box in the lower right corner of your screen, I think. So if you click on it, if you enter your questions there, then we will be able to pick them up and we will answer them either directly in this Q&A box, or we will discuss them here on stage with our experts. So for the official opening of our Eurojust Virtual Open Day, I have now the honor to pass the floor to my colleague Boštjan Skrec. He is the national member for Slovenia and also the vice president of Eurojust. So please, Boštjan.
Good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends. I have the great pleasure to welcome you to this 2021 edition of our Open Day here at Eurojust in The Hague. Those of you who already know us a little bit better might remember the good old times when we used to host you here at our premises in The Hague. Well, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, which is still with us, but fortunately probably slowing down a little bit, we had to adapt and we had to change our plans and do again another virtual open day. Speaking of the pandemic, allow me to share with you what is the situation at our organization with this respect. Right now, as of this week, we are slowly getting back to our offices to the 50% capacity. For the past year and a half, we were forced to telework from home, which presented us with some challenges, which we, may I say, overcome quite successfully. We continued to provide the full range of tools and support to our colleagues across the EU member states. And we have achieved quite some good results. In 2020, for instance, we have handled almost 8,800 cases at Eurojust, which is an increase of 13%. We also supported 230 joint investigation teams, and we have participated in enabling thousands of European arrest warrants and European investigation orders. Don't worry, I will not bother you too much with the statistics, and I will not spend too much of your time with numbers, but allow me to mention just three of them, which will capture the essence of our work perhaps the most effectively. We have supported the arrest of 2,200 suspects, and we have assisted in freezing 1.9 billion of criminal assets, and also helped the seizure of drugs in worth of 3 billion euros. How did we do this? How do we do the job that we are supposed to do here at Eurojust, and what services and tools are we offering to our colleagues across the EU member states? That's what you will hear a little bit more about today, but a little bit later today. First, we will focus on something else. As Tim has already said, this is a Just Peace Month week, and the motto of this time is the human stories of peace and justice. Therefore, we will do a little bit something which is unusual for a judicial cooperation agency. We will not talk about our job, but we would rather focus on talking about us, ourselves, our passion for our work, how do we see our work. And in this respect, we will feature in the first part of today's open day a very impressive colleague who had to overcome quite some obstacles during her career. After that, it will be all about work again, our casework. Here at Eurojust, we are handling different types of cases. Of course, it is all cases of most serious forms of cross-border crime, such as cybercrime, terrorism, or economic crime. For all that, we have specialized teams, and we have invited the colleagues from those teams for today's session to share their experience and knowledge with you and talk about their work. We will also touch upon the victims. How do we support the victims' rights, and what do we do to enable victims to fulfill and safeguard their rights? With all this, we are hoping to spark a little bit of interest in you with relation to Eurojust and perhaps the career at Eurojust or getting a job at Eurojust in form of internship or even more serious career commitment. If this is something that would interest you, the last today's session would be exactly for you, because we will have our administrative director and head of human resources available for you for questions and discussions of that kind. Coming back to what Tim had said, to what I said at the beginning, this is our second edition of the virtual open days in this virtual setting, and I'm really happy to greet you this time from our premises here in The Hague. We are confident that despite the limitations that are posed by us upon us by this virtual setting, we have managed to organize an attractive and interesting agenda for you, and I would like to thank you for your interest. And I would like to wish us all now inspiring and engaging Open Day 2021. With this, it's back to you, Tim.
Thanks a lot, Bastian, for your opening remarks. Thank you. And let's move now to the first point of today's agenda. We would like to introduce to you our dear colleague, Silke Schönfleisch-Backofen. Silke is assistant to the national member for Germany here at Eurojust. And we have prepared a couple of pictures of Silke and of her career for you. You have seen her on the pictures, and now here she is live. Good morning and welcome, Silke.
Good morning, Tim.
Silke, as Bastian has already said in his opening remarks, the topic of this year's Just Peace Month is the human stories of peace and justice. You have a very special story to tell, how you became a prosecutor and what challenges you needed to overcome. But first, I would say let's start where everything should start, at the beginning, because initially you said you did not want to have a legal profession at all, right?
Yes, that's totally true. I was not interested in law at all. I always was very much interested in art, as you also could see in the PowerPoint presentation with the last picture holding up a little art piece I painted here in The Hague through the pandemic. And I think I was never able to play ball games on the street with other friends, and I always was at home painting pictures. And so I thought, when I will be grown up, I will become an artist. yeah, that was my idea of a professional life.
And so why didn't you follow your father's advice, who wanted you to become a legal professional? So what made you so reluctant to it? What was the legal world for you at this moment?
Part of being reluctant to become a lawyer was I had no role model. I have never seen a person with a disability practice in law, but I knew from artists like Van Gogh, who has a physical disability, and I knew I was really good in painting, so I thought, okay, I become an artist. But my father was like super direct with me and said, this is a really bad idea. You should not become an artist and you should not study art at university because the world has enough starving artists out there. And you, with your physical disability, you cannot go to a bar and work there as a waitress to earn money and then buy the colors for the next pictures. You can't do this. So there's no opportunity to earn money by the side with little jobs here and there. So he said, you really need to focus on a career where you earn good money and you can work independently.
Mm-hmm. So for you at this point, art was your number one, and there was some kind of pushing from your father. You resisted initially, but what made you change your mind then?
Well, I thought, okay, I cannot study art because my father will not support this idea. What else am I interested? And as child, I was like almost every year, several months in hospitals, and I had over 30 surgeries. And I had a lot of encounters with medical professionals. So the other idea I had was like, well, then I will study medicine because I have so many ideas what I could do better, how to engage with the patients, how to explain what is going to happen with them, what kind of treatment they will receive, yeah, so I thought, okay, let's study medicine, but I know that when you study medicine, you cannot specialize at the beginning in one field, but you have to cover the whole range. And I knew that would be quite challenging with my physical limitations. So I called the competent ministry, which would give me the license after finishing my studies. And I tried to explain them my personal situations and why I want to study medicine and practice medicine. And they were also quite super direct, like my father. They told me, well, we don't believe this will be possible. You cannot work in an emergency room and save other people's life. And I said, yeah, I don't need to do this. There are other fields I can work in. No, this won't be possible. We will deny your license. If you think you want to study medicine, then do it. But you will never be allowed to practice medicine. You can sue us.
So basically they were just crushing your dreams at that moment.
Yes. And but it was like a coincidence. I had the voice of my father in my head, who always told me he thinks it would be the best idea for me to study law. And I said to myself, okay, this ministry had just said to me I should sue them to be allowed to practice medicine. This is unbelievable. And my father said I should study law okay, I will enroll for law and start studying law. And when I have finished my law studies, I will sue this ministry.
So your plan was to sue them for discrimination, basically, or for not admitting you.
Well, for me, it was not about suing them for discrimination, but it was really that I had this dream. I want to practice medicine and I want to do this. And I had the feeling this is a necessary step in between. So, okay, let's start studying law and I will overcome this obstacle and then study medicine.
So you had a very strong driving force then, a very strong motivation. How did this turn out during your law studies? Was this a smooth sailing then, and everybody was supportive, or did you also encounter challenges or problems during your studies?
I started to study law in 1991 at the University of Frankfurt. And in my year, we were 1,000 students. And I was the only one with a visible physical disability. And it was super tough for me because at that time, like all the law books were not already in the internet. You could not do the online searches. You still needed to go to the library and take out these heavy big law books. And then you needed to make copies at these horrible big machines, which were bigger than me, because you were not allowed to take the books at home. And so this was one of my biggest challenges, to get around in this law library. And I remember once during the summertime, we had to write quite a complex paper, and all the students teamed up in little groups. And I was just abroad for an exchange program and studied 1 semester law at the University of Florida in Gainesville. And I came back in the summer and needed to find my group to work on this paper. And I walked through the library, seeing all those students sitting together in groups of 4 or 6 people, and I thought, which one will I pick? And I thought I would have picked a group which looked quite diverse to me and quite open. They were not like dressed very conservative. They looked like really leisure, friendly, cool people. And I took a deep breath and I went to the table and said, "Hi, I'm Silke. I'm just back from Florida and I would like to join your group to work together on this paper." And they looked at me like really like scanning me from the top to the feet. And then, "Well, we don't think this is a good idea. It's obvious that you don't belong to us. You don't fit in our group dynamic." Well, so that is still something which I can feel hurts. But how I experienced life is always when something happens which seems to be really depressing, something new comes up, something exciting. So I thought, okay, let's focus on this paper which needs to be written, and I need somebody who wants to work with me because I cannot reach the law box. I walked further the aisles and I saw a young woman sitting on her own at a desk with law books, and I went to her and thought, okay, give it a second chance. try it again. And I said, hi, I'm Silke. Do you have already a group to work on this paper? And she said, no. And I said, would you like to work with me together? And she said, yes, that's a perfect idea. And we became best friends.
So in a way, the setbacks that you experienced, they motivated you. They made you stronger. I mean, they hurt, but they also made you stronger and were kind of a driving factor to push through with this very difficult subject of studies, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then towards the end, I mean, you had already decided that you wanted to become a prosecutor and catch the bad guys, or what made you go into that direction specifically?
It was a long time for me, very, very unclear in which direction I would like to go. And after my first exam, I had different practical experience at a civil court, at administration, and also at the prosecution's office. And there I had a very self-confident, strong prosecutor who trained me. And she saw me as a very smart, clever law student who is interested in working with her together. And she did not focus on what I'm not able to do. She always was looking for solutions, and she promoted me very strongly. And so she was the role model, actually, which I was looking for. And it was very interesting. I have one strong memory where we were 30 trainees at that time at the prosecutor's office, and each of one received one file which we had to present in court. And everyone got an appointment when the court session was scheduled to present the case. But I was the only one who did not receive a time slot. So I went to my prosecutor and said, what is happening here? I have a case file, but I don't have a time slot to present it in court. There's something going on. And my prosecutor, who totally believed in me, said, oh, this must be a mistake. They probably have forgotten to tell you the time slot. I will call the secretary and clarify for you. And she called her and said, I'm calling on behalf of Silke Schönfleisch. She does not have a time slot, so when is her case scheduled? And the administrative secretary on the other said, well, she's not scheduled for a court session because we don't have a black robe in her size. She cannot go to court. And my prosecutor said, that is just ridiculous. Stop this bullshit. It doesn't matter if you have a robe in her size or not. Give me this time slot. She will present her case in court. And she hung up and she did not make a decision. So I received my time slot, and my prosecutor said to me, just go home, take a black suit and come for your appointment and you will just do fine.
Which you did.
Yes.
I guess. and afterwards, I mean, after becoming a prosecutor, after presenting your cases in court, did you get used to that very, very quickly, or was it something that, I mean, how did people react to you in your new role as a prosecutor? Was there a good acceptance of the fact that the prosecutor is 1 meter 12 centimeters and is maybe not what people would expect in court to see as a prosecutor? Or what was the perception of people in that moment?
Well, that is actually a question which you need to address to the accused persons or the defense lawyers or the judges or the witnesses. But my feeling was that the criminal procedural law gives quite a strict frame. It's like a theater play which is orchestrated from the start to the end. So everyone knows exactly their role and what to do. And there's hardly any room to address the matter. Why is this prosecutor so short-statured? Is there something going wrong here? Because that's not the topic. It's the indictment and whether the criminal person will receive a sentence and needs to go to jail or not, or if he will be a free man at the end of the court session.
But I think once you wanted to, or you took to court someone who did not react in a normal way to you. Is that, I think, was a case?
Yes, I think in 12 years of prosecution in Frankfurt am Main, and I was quite often in court, like sometimes 3 times a week. I think in these 12 years, I had like 2 strong memories where my disability was also somehow in the room. And once I have an accused person who claimed that I would only prosecute him because I'm a little person who wants to make an impression. But that was ridiculous because he was accused of murdering his best friend. So, yeah. And then I had another experience in court with quite a difficult witness who did not answer any of my questions and started to laugh and also became sexual offenses. But when I look back at this, I think it did not have to do anything with my disability because it was a person who just did not accept any person above him. He did not answer a question from the judge. He answered no questions from the defense lawyer. But actually, the German newspapers with the 4 letters made quite a big story out of it because they wrote he offended me because of my disability. But yeah.
So then there you were as a prosecutor. You were prosecuting, as you already said, murder cases. So really like heavy crime, some of the most serious crimes that are imaginable. Was this like arriving at your destination, arriving at what you always then wanted to do? What your passion was in? So
yes, totally.
Yeah.
It was like a dream came true, and I'm still from the bottom of my heart a prosecutor.
What does that mean, from the bottom of your heart? So how do you feel about that?
Well, you used the word passion, and I'm really passionate about this profession, and it's not something which I just do to earn money because I want to live independently. It's something I totally strongly believe in, that I'm being on the right side if I work as a prosecutor, and I feel very honored and privileged to be able to work as a disabled person in such a professional field. And I think I want to give back to society and contribute and make this world a safer world, a better world. And I think that's something where it's worth for working, and I don't look at my watch when I start to work and when I finish. It's not a 9-to-5 job for me. It's my life.
Mm. And it really needs a lot of passion for that, of course. May I bring in Boštjan Sklec, our vice president, again here. Boštjan, when you hear this, talking about this specific passion that you need to have to be a prosecutor, do you recognize yourself also in this picture that Silke just drew?
Yes, thank you very much, Tim. I mean, first, I have to say that I'm quite humbled by the experience Silke had to go through during her career. Mine was much more straightforward, I would say. Luckily for me, I was quite fortunate, I guess, in this respect. But I fully understand and subscribe to what she has said. It does take a passion, and also my professional, let's say, a path from the beginning when I was listening to Silke is very similar. You know, I did not see myself as a prosecutor one day. I don't really think that many young boys, you know, see themselves in the future as being a prosecutor. You know, if they see themselves as lawyers, they probably see themselves as, you know, American type of defense lawyer, fancy, smooth talking, very elaborate, acting in the courthouse, having a jury eating out of their palms, you know, that kind of thing, perhaps. But mostly the boys, at least when I was a boy, we had much more down to earth kind of occupational visions. My child ambition was much more natural science, aviation, and things like that. Much later on, I actually embraced the law. Also, after some soul searching, trying to decide which way to direct my future career. And when I did choose the law, and when I did start studying the law, I realized this was the dream that I was not even aware of. And this is something that I really want to do, because I have realized that law is actually intertwined in our lives. It is inextricably intertwined, and you cannot separate the law from the everyday life. All those little rules that are governing our lives, the traffic rules, I don't know, the way how you have to register by the municipality, and so on and so forth. All that is basically law. So if you are involved in the law, in the legal studies, you actually open yourselves the avenue to all those areas. And the criminal law is, of course, very specific. At the beginning of my career, I saw myself as a judge. You know, that was my role model, was a courtroom and delivering justice. But when I started working at the court, and I started as a legal advisor, and I was studying all those cases, civil cases, criminal cases, I loved it, and I still saw myself as a judge. But it was quite difficult to become a judge at that moment, because there was no vacancies, and there was a vacancy at the prosecution service office. And I was actually approached by the head of that office, and he told me that they were monitoring me because they saw me as a trainee, as an intern, and they would like to have me in their team because they think I could be contributing nicely to the team. And I was flattered, of course, and I said, all right, I will join you. But I thought that, okay, I'll probably go back to the court as soon as the vacancy for judge opens. But, you know, after 6 months or so, I realized that to be honest, you know, in a justice system in general, I think there is no better job than the prosecutor job, because it's there is a number of reasons for it. It's active on one hand, it's dynamic, it's creative, because on the prosecutor it is to, you know, from this conglomerate of information, for all this suspicious or all this evidence which is perhaps available or not available, all this big bowl of information which is handed over to you by the police, you have to figure everything out, and you have to structure it nicely so that it will stand and it will withstand the test of trial later on in the proceedings.
Boštjan, what kind of cases did you work on?
Well, when I started in a relatively small district prosecution's office, where we did all kinds of cases. So it was murder cases, human trafficking cases across the state border, ordinary robberies, whatever. So sexual crime, all mixed bag. So I had a quite extensive and diverse experience in this typical prosecutorial work, which is of course very beneficial for your future career, because then you have the insight on the works, and it also of course enables you to see all sides of prosecutorial work, the positive sides and also the downsides of the prosecutorial work, because it's not all shiny. Of course, on the positive side is the fact that you all the time have the feeling that you are working on the right side. As Silke said, I have exactly the same feeling. We are working in the public interest and we are on the right side. On the other hand, it does bring you in the direct confrontation with some quite unpleasant people. And you have to literally, look them in the eye and tell them, I think you should go to prison for 10 years because the thing you done, it's absolutely appalling and you should be punished for that. That is not always easy, because it of course brings to your mind awareness that you are not alone in this world. You have your family, you have family members, you have children. That if you're working in a small town, particular perhaps, or a smaller community, everybody knows you. It's not easy to disappear into anonymity, and I'm sure that Silke is, for her, is impossible to disappear into anonymity. So these are the things you have to deal with within yourself, and you have to make a decision. Do I want to, in my life, take the easy way, or do I want to make the right way? The right way usually means you have to fight.
That's actually something I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on. But before I do that, I have a question that is basically now for both of you. But before I ask you that, I wanted to encourage our audience to also send us their questions. So please, if you want to ask Bastian or Silke, basically anything, just do it. If you want to know something that's not related to them, you can also ask us. Please just use this question and answers opportunity that you have. So my question actually to both of you is, you were already a little bit talking to that direction that you feel that you, in some cases, you feel under threat, or you feel in a sort of public setting where you don't feel comfortable because of the type of guys you're dealing with. Generally speaking, how do you deal with the big pressure that you have? I guess if you have such a high-profile case like a murder case, then you are being watched by the media. You're being watched by the general public through the media. You are being watched by your supervisors and by your colleagues. And how do you deal with that kind of pressure? And also, how do you deal with this internal pressure that I could imagine you have? Because you see someone and you're fully convinced that this is the guy or the girl who committed a crime. So you really think this person deserves to be in jail. And I am in a position who I can make this happen. I need to convince the judge, of course, or the jury, or whatever it is, but it's on me in a way. How do you deal with that? Maybe, Silke, would you like to start?
Yes, Tim, already when you describe the question, I feel the pressure and the heavy load on my shoulders. And yes, that's something which always comes up when you handle cases which are important. So I have different strategies. One strategy is always take a deep breath, relax, and believe in myself that I'm a really good prosecutor and I know what I'm doing. The other thing is that you are not alone. You have a team of police investigators who also know what they are doing. And then you have colleagues in the prosecutor's office, which you can discuss difficult questions with them. And in the end, you review your case file and you look very, very carefully if you did all the necessary steps to bring the case to court. And when you are personally convinced that you did everything which was possible, then you have to go for it. So that's the professional side. And then you also have a personal life, and that's something you really have to find your own strategies when you go home, that you don't take the stress with you into your private life. And that was quite difficult for me in the beginning. So the first thing which came into my mind in the evenings, let's have a pizza and a glass of red wine to relax. But you cannot do this each night. That's not good for your health. So you need other strategies. And I guess Bastian would also say it's sports. Some people go jogging or do ball games or...
Yeah, what do you do, actually?
Yeah, it's exactly as Silke says. I mean, you have to develop your own strategies. We are different people, they have different personalities, and we deal with it in a different manner. It's on one hand, dealing with a professional kind of pressure and that kind of element is in a way easier, because if you prepare well, if you do your best, if you study the case thoroughly, if you do the careful preparations and you concentrate maximum on the proceedings and on what to do and which phase and so on, it takes a lot of pressure off. On the other hand, this personal element is of course present. The stress management itself on the physical level, it's different for different people. I never really had any particular problem with it. I'm probably naturally resilient to it a little bit, and I also try to do physical activity in order to vent this out.
Also pizza and red wine, or
pizza not so often, no. A little bit more physical stuff. But what I wanted to say is, there are moments, and there are definitely many moments when you think, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? This guy is really dangerous. And I'm sitting now here with him outside of the courtroom. We're waiting for the judge to bring the judgment. So we are sitting outside and we're looking at each other. He's giving me the signals with his eyes. I feel exactly what he thinks. And then you ask yourself, is this kind of worth it? Am I protected enough by the state and so on? And it actually brings me, to one element which we often tend to forget. We have to fight our battles, and we all together are a state. And there is no society without individuals. So every individual is supposed to do its part. And this is my part. I have to do it. It's not easy. But I chose this, and somebody has to do this job, and I chose it, and I liked it, so I better do it. And it's also, for the people who are in the criminal proceedings as victims or as witnesses, it's perhaps for them it's sometimes even harder. Because they are thrown into the middle of this whole thing. They have to be a witness in, murder crime, organized crime case, where something bad, really bad happened from like a group of people which are doing really bad things for a while, and they have to testify against them. And that's really tough. And I had situations when people approached me and I said, look, I saw it, I know it, but I just don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. I will say I don't remember. And then you try to invoke in people this understanding that, look, this is the moment in your life which you will remember for the rest of your life. And on that moment, it depends, will you remember this moment as the moment when you did the right thing? Or was that the moment when you turned coward? If you turned coward, then, you will lose your credibility in your life. You will never be able to say to other people, you gotta fight your battles, you didn't fight your battles, so shut up, keep quiet, So this is the moment, try to see the bigger picture, and then of course, I know what the good thing is, what the right decision is. It's not an easy one, it's a difficult one, but this is exactly the reason why you have to take it. And this helps you then getting along. And this is also helpful for the people who are in the situations like that. And I can tell you, I was surprised how positively people react in such situations. If you picture the little bit larger picture, if you try to make them understand that this is really the moment that they will remember when they will talk to their grandkids, you want to do the right thing.
Yeah. About doing the right thing, one thing for the audience that we are also trying to set right at the moment is the questions and answers function. So I've been informed that for some of you, unfortunately, it is not possible at the moment to work on this. No, now I hear. That was outdated information. I shouldn't work on that basis. Some of you had the chance to already ask us some questions. So here's a question to Silke, and I think this is quite closely connected to what we talked about just before. How do you cope with lost cases when you are certain that someone was guilty, someone had committed a crime, and then you lose the case, and he can walk as a free man from court? So how do you deal with that?
Well, it's always the question, why did I lose this case? If I made a mistake through my investigations, then I really went home and it hit me hard. But if I lost the case because that's how our criminal procedural system is structured, then this can also be the right thing. And to be honest, I rather lose a case than someone innocent goes to jail. That would be more difficult for me.
We have another question, maybe to both of you. It's a rather broad question, but if you could try to fit, a very broad spectrum into your answer there. What are the best parts of your role at Eurojust, and what are the challenges you encounter here, professionally and personally? So, I mean, we could fill probably 2 hours with that.
We can. But shall I start?
Please.
Eurojust is absolutely unique organization, and when I say this, I'm not making this advertising exercise. It is unique because we have the bird's eye view on judicial cooperation within European Union. Now, in order to explain this, I have to go a little bit back because it's not always easy for everyone to comprehend if they are not professionals from this field. The criminal justice is very national. So the criminal proceedings are national. So the national court in Slovenia will prosecute persons in front of Slovenian courts, and the Slovenian prosecutors will do it. If this person has committed a crime somewhere abroad, or a crime across many countries, we have to find a way how to organize our work and cooperate in this case. So the states have quite extensive experience on how the cooperation works in their own, capacity. So in Slovenia, Slovenian professionals know how the cooperation with country A, country B, country C works. Professionals in country B and country C have also quite a good view on how cooperation with countries X, Y, Z work. But nobody really has the view how it works, from the EU point of view, because there is no entity like that. This is exactly where Eurojust comes in. We are the ones who are included in those cases. So we see what kind of proceedings are problematic in country A, and the same proceedings will not be problematic in country B. The third type of proceedings will be very problematic in country C, while it would be not a problem in many other member states of the EU. So this is an absolute experience which you cannot get anywhere else. And also the feeling of bringing people together, really people together, because we tend to forget that at the end of the case, there is a prosecutor who is handling the case. And the prosecutor who is handling the case is not always very skilled or very experienced in international cooperation, might be also not very relaxed at communicating in different foreign languages and so on. So we have to make sure that this person feels safe, feels secure to open up to his colleagues from other countries and exchange information and start really collaborating on the case. This is a very interesting part of the Eurojust work.
And that's one of the main challenges then also here, I guess. Yeah, I see. I have to look a little bit at the time as always, time flies. We have another question also for Silke regarding your also related to Eurojust and regarding your disability. The question is how you feel about working at Eurojust as a disabled person. So how inclusive is this environment to you?
I can clearly and honestly say I feel very, very welcomed. This is the first working place I have been in my whole career where I not only feel accepted or tolerated, but I feel very welcomed. And for me, it was the first moment I stepped into the building. I met my new colleagues from all over Europe. They gave me this impression I belong to them. I am part of the Eurojust family. And I'm so happy to be here.
It's super nice to hear. Actually, that would be also a great closing remark, but we have time for, I think, for one additional question. The question we received is, what motivated you to take the decision to move to the European level, so to join Eurojust? What were your expectations when you came here, and were they met? So maybe if you would just like to continue, what brought you to us to the European level?
Yes, after working 12 years at the prosecutor's office in Frankfurt am Main, I also worked 8 years in the Ministry of Justice and Consumer Protection in Berlin. And there I had to fly to Brussels and participate in negotiations on European regulations. And there I had encounters with European colleagues, and I found out that I really like this kind of work also. But I always missed prosecuting cases. I missed cases. So I thought, how could I combine this experience I made in my law career? And I thought, I apply at Eurojust, and I took all my courage and wrote an email to the national member for Germany and asked him if it would be possible to work for him. And he immediately answered because he knew me from the Ministry of Justice and said, what a fantastic idea. We will make this possible. And so that's actually why I'm here.
And a decision you never regretted?
I have never regretted it one moment at all.
Great, that's super nice to hear. And let's, Bosjan, sorry, I think our time is over now. I think from your last statement, I think we could clearly hear also what motivates you to be here and to be on that European level. You mentioned this bird's eye view that you have.
If I just may relate to what Silke has just said, I think it was also very enriching for all of us at Eurojust when you came. You exposed us to totally different set of problems. You made us aware of how things can sometimes be perceived and our actions, how we can be actually hurting other people without even knowing. And it has been very enriching to have you here. I mean, with your personality, you are really building bridges. And we didn't even mention it. We saw it from the PowerPoint. With you came Jack. Okay, now it will be the Jack too. The dog who is assisting you. Yeah. This is something completely unheard of to have a dog in the premises of such an agency. But of course, it also brought many positive effects because it broke up it warmed up the atmosphere and it relaxed. I mean, it's absolutely a fantastic experience having you around.
And I can say that we are already really looking forward to having your new assistant dog here, John Boy, right?
Yes, his name is John Boy. He is still in training, but he will join the Eurojust family in the beginning of next year.
Another member of Team Eurojust then. Great, good to hear. So thanks a lot for this discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being so open on our open day. I mean, it's in the motto, but of course, sharing personal stories and personal views is always, one step further than just talking about work. Talking about work, we will do so. We will do so after a short break.